On this episode of ResiWeek, we talk copper versus fiber, 5 changes for your business, and bringing your customers to CEDIA Expo. All this and more on this episode of ResiWeek.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is ResiWeek episode 108, Fiber Fight.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by Peerless AV, the official outdoor display provider of Daytona International Speedway, and by SDVOE, the platform for networked AV.
Welcome to ResiWeek. This is your weekly wrap-up of all the latest news and stories for the residential AV industry. I'm your host, Matt D. Scott for AVNation.tv. And today I'm pleased to be joined by Jason Knott. He is the editor of CE Pro. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being back again. And long time no talk. We have Todd Puma. He is the president of the Source Home Theater in New York, New Jersey area. How are you, sir?
Doing well, Matt. Thanks for having me back. Appreciate it.
I feel like you've been avoiding me. I feel like you didn't want to talk.
I've been avoiding the camera, period. Phone.
Well, it happens, right?
Technology. I hate technology.
That's awesome. Speaking of technology we hate, look at that lead in. That's fantastic.
Perfect.
Coming to us from CE Pro, an article that has honestly caused a bit of a issue, shall we say. Copper versus fiber. Don't be a scaredy cat. This comes to us from Robert Archer. And essentially, it is a comparison over why you should look at potentially using fiber instead of copper for your high-end distribution. Jason, I want to start with you on this one. Before we get into some of the brouhaha that this seemed to kick off, when we look at fiber versus copper, in the past, it's always been an issue due to cost. That people could not jump onto fiber because it was a pain in the butt to install in the field. It was annoying to terminate. It was quite difficult to terminate, to be honest. And the cost was just, it always outweighed the perceivable near time benefits of just running copper. We could run a category cable and be fine for 1080p and everything else that at the time we ever thought we'd see. Now that we have 4K, HDR, all this other fun stuff, we're needing a lot more bandwidth. We're needing distances. We're needing a lot more that honestly a lot of times copper can provide. What is beyond that? What is that shift come about because of? What has caused that shift to where we can now, actually look at using fiber in most installations?
Well, first of all, let's just say when you're talking about what integrators do, and integrators are the guys who are asked to break the rules. So a point-to-point HDMI and a short run from a TV to a receiver or a TV to a cable box, those things invariably work just well in a DIY situation, many instances. But for integrators are the ones who are being asked to send these long distances, do these multi-room video transmissions, all these sorts of things where they're being asked to break the rules. And now, of course, you just mentioned 4K, HDR, 48 gigabits per second, and the HDMI 2.1. Now you're looking at copper with struggling to be able to meet these this transmission capability. So it's bringing fiber more to the forefront. You're exactly right. Cost has been an issue. Actually terminating it in the field has been an issue. But there's been vast improvements in the space, and the point of the article is for integrators not to dismiss the fiber capabilities, but to look at it closely.
Very good, Todd. I've got an integrator friend who has been using fiber for the last 4 or 5 years on every large scale project. And I don't necessarily mean large scale as in 10,000 square feet and above. He's been using it in 5,000, 4,000, and even some 3,000 square foot projects just because of the reliability, because of the, future proofing, which, we've used that word in this industry for years, but fiber is one of those actual technologies that can truly deliver that. when you as an integrator look at fiber and look at deploying it, what is your definition of market segments between who would get fiber and who wouldn't? Is it strictly a cost thing? Like, do you offer both solutions to all your clients that need some sort of distributed system, or are you speccing it based on other metrics?
Well, it's a case-by-case study, just like any sale. It all comes down to value engineering for your client. A lot of the time, before you even get to speak to the customer about, fiber versus copper, there's always someone in the middle, based on my clientele, that's telling them that don't go fiber. You're paying triple the amount of money that copper could do, and you'll actually have more runs done. It's more durable, and it's less of a headache for whoever it may be. Now, do I agree with that? Not necessarily. We do deploy fiber on projects, especially when networking from long distances, say from a house to like a pool house or wherever it may be. That's a must because you can't run copper out there. I would not do it. I like to connect my switches, especially at long distances, with fiber. It also goes down to your digital media as well. Anything going a distance, I will always connect a digital media Crestron output card to a room box because fiber is more reliable. I can't afford, or my customers don't want to have a situation where later on down the line, something has happened to the signal and it's degraded because I didn't do my proper homework. I didn't look into what tools to do in order to get it done. Copper is a great tool on every single project, but fiber would be better if it's a budgetary reason. Now, who cares about the labor? Because it does double up your labor time. It does double up your cost of product.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the two things that a lot of customers have an issue with. They rather invest into product or different services than invest into wiring that's a little bit too expensive.
Yeah, and I think when you look at some of the new technologies, that's where we're really going to continue to see that metric shift into the more, or smaller projects, I should say.
Well,
Jason,
gigabits, right?
Yeah. Jason, I want to come back to you for 1 second. We all know Bob Archer. We know the writers at CE Pro. We know that you guys and girls really know your stuff as a role. You don't write about stuff that you have no clue about. So when there's all the brouhaha that kind of came up out of this about how you should kind of stay out of these kind of topics, this is one of those topics that to me you have to be into, because who else is going to bring it up? A bunch of integrators aren't going to get in a room and all of a sudden discuss fiber versus copper. They might at a bar for a few minutes at CEDIA,
Or
but
a podcast.
Oh yeah, or a podcast like this. But but what I'm getting at is all this, all the ruckus that this seemed to cause, is any of that valid? Or is it like, I don't want to say that some of these people on the forums, and forum people are awesome because they always have great opinions, but how much of it is just making a bunch of noise about nothing?
Well, whenever I speak to a group, I'm always very clear to say that I am not a practitioner. You guys who are the readers are the experts. We know that. We know that the readers, they're the ones who are out there in the field doing it every day. But in essence, we're storytellers. We are there interviewing people, and the thrust of this article is interviews with other experts that Bob put together. And we are not pushing an agenda, but we're trying to inform the reader of what's potentially out there, whether it's a technical subject like this, or whether it's a business model of a high volume versus luxury business model, or recurring monthly revenue, or those sorts of things. We're not telling the reader that he needs to do something. If they have a bad experience, that's unfortunate. We hope they have a good experience, because one of our roles is to try and introduce these new things, these new technologies to them. Now, having said that, I will say we do use word plays in headlines, and the word plays, this inverted pyramid of readership. we know that 10%, only 10% of the readers actually read a full article in CE Pro. 90% of the readers are reading the headlines, the decks, and the photo captions. So we spend a lot of time on trying to make the headlines, photo captions, and decks, and the subheads very important so that somebody reads those. I mean, for example, Matt, you probably didn't read that there was a coup in the Congo last month, but you were flipping through the paper or you're on the online and you saw a headline that said coup in the Congo. And then when somebody brought it up to you, you said, "Oh yeah, I read about that." You didn't read it. You read the headline.
No, I totally didn't read that.
Yeah, you read the headline, So, this was certainly a word play. We were trying to make a word play on the word category, cat, cable. A couple of the readers took offense to us as if we were trying to, call them out for not taking risks in their business. And
can I
call them out for not taking? Can I call them out for not taking risks in their businesses? Yeah, go for it, Todd.
But here's what it comes down to: is that these people spend endless hours on writing these articles to give us content that could help us and help our business. What bothers me about people is that they come down, the only time they will speak is to spew negativity. Okay, if you're spewing negativity, it means you have an insecurity about something you are doing. And that's exactly what these articles do, is you plant seeds in order to let people know, with them knowing and not knowing it, to better their business. The minute a person puts a negative comment, I look at it like this: I'm going to try exactly what this article said, because there's something in here that's spewing controversy that's going to make something better for my business that other people aren't going to do. These articles are our tools. And when a person comes out and has something to say, you know what? Put your comments somewhere and give it to your wife, give it to your kids, give it to your workers, write it down in an article and then flush it down the toilet. I don't care what you do with it. Don't put it on these articles that are helping integrators. It's not the way a business should be ran. It's not the way we should be communicating with each other, especially through an article that someone has busted their butt to write, especially like Barb Archer. There's no reason for anyone to validate themselves. And Jason, keep writing articles like this. Keep on having a team doing things like this, because it's good for us and it's good for this industry.
Well, so you all heard it here first. Todd Puma is advocating spousal and child abuse over against the Pro. So
verbally.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I just helped you out, and that's what I get. I told you you're mean. That was mean.
Every time I see this stuff, and whether it's on an article like this on CE Pro or ResiSys or any of the magazines or publishing companies, or if it's on one of the industry community pages or blogs or anything like that, you see a lot of fun stuff all the time on both sides, both positive and negative. And the thing that always cracks me up is, when I saw all the ruckus that this had kind of kicked up, I went back and read the article again, and then read it a couple more times just to make sure that I wasn't missing something, that there was something, I somehow didn't seem to comprehend. And I didn't see anything. I didn't see CE Pro, and I don't see anyone else for that matter, other than sometimes me when I write, come out and tell someone that they're stupid for not doing something, or implying that if they don't, in this case, jump on fiber, they don't know what they're doing. Yet we so often seem to just get overly personal about it and kind of complaining, and it's kind of ridiculous.
But there's nothing personal to take about this. It's a tool to better ourselves as a business. I don't have all the answers. So what do? I search the internet. I search with my peers, and I ask questions. I use articles like this to better, my business and also my employees and everybody around me. What bothers me every single time with these people is just like negativity spews from them. And how is anything positive going to happen if someone's just constantly beating someone down? If you're picking people up, more positivity is going to happen. It doesn't work that way. If you're going to write an article, you're going to put something down, put it as a positive spin and let it end as a positive spin. Put a little bit inside that it's, I don't know. I'm not even touching it anymore.
Well, and I think you had the great point though, Todd. If you read this and it sparks something in you, maybe take it as a moment to step back and look at what you in your company are doing, whether you're a manufacturer, whether you're an integrator, whether you're sales, it doesn't matter, but take it back and say, okay, well, maybe we should reevaluate what we're doing. When was the last time we looked at fiber? I know before my company got into fiber, we had not looked at it for about a year and a half. And that up until that point, till we looked back at it, we had avoided it because it was expensive. But we didn't actually, none of my guys and even myself, I didn't even take the time to go see what it was going to cost for one of my techs to get certified to terminate in the field. I had no idea. I had a year and a half old information. And I feel that is, that's one of the biggest things we do is we just get caught up on stuff and then we don't actually look at the facts and try to take something like this article and see if it could help us.
We're always dismissive. That's how it is. And that's a true point.
I don't have time for your comment, Tom.
What's that?
Sorry, I was trying to dismiss that comment.
Oh, thanks. All right.
You're welcome.
Well,
Buddy.
I just thank you guys. I agree with your perspective, and obviously, we're not trying to be defensive. We have the thickest skins, Todd. Because you write. You have to have a thick skin because everybody. You're right. You don't hear of the 99 guys who probably read this article positively. Those guys didn't bother to write. So.
Well, and it's not unlike your day-to-day business. You don't get thank you cards from all the clients that do a fantastic job. They don't write comments on your website. They don't rate you on any of the rating sites. You know who does? The guy who thinks he got screwed. He's the guy who's vocal. And it's a shame that happens as often as it does.
But you know what I do with that? Because that was actually something the last couple of weeks, and I'm going to talk about in one of my blogs, is that if you look at the people that have wrote negative comments, you trend and watch them and keep going back, you'll see that no matter who it's to, there's something negative that they're posting about everyone. It's just not a one-time thing. And if it is a one-time thing, then that person has they're more validating than the other guy who's complaining every 2 seconds about every little thing he sees.
Very much so. All right, let's change topics to something that's slightly more positive. This comes to us from John Siaka and Residential Systems. 5 changes that they made that help their business run more smoothly. I'll give you the quick oversight of it. Excuse me. The first one was that they have a monthly job board where they make things available so scheduling is easier, and it's a physical board. It's not digital. It's something that people can see just walking by in the office. They have a to be scheduled board. They have daily worksheets that they give to all of their installers for the next day. They have do now language on invoicing, which is a fun one that I wouldn't mind getting into. And they also have a rate us email that they send out after project completion. Todd, I want to start with you on this one. Looking at this, and again, you're an integrator, so you're going to have a slightly different perspective on this than Jason will. What in this did you see that you liked? And what did you see that John missed?
I don't want to touch base on what John missed.
Come on. That's more fun.
I'm not.
We just talked about being negative. Come on.
So what I do like is the visualization board. I'm with everything that I have, I don't go digital. I actually print out my invoices. I print out everything we go through with my guys because I feel it's a little easier for me to work with. The visualization board is something that definitely I'll take into my business because I think it is important. Every day you're passing by the scheduling, you'll notice it more than going onto the Google Calendar, which half my guys don't look at, but I still use it. A couple of things, with John is I always said this before, if he was in New York City, John would probably have one of the biggest firms that has existed in our tri-state and New York area. He's a very bright guy. He knows how to run a business. He knows about technology, and he also writes about technology. He's pretty much a triple threat. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to read through it again. The rate us email after a project is completed. That is something we've been doing. A lot of customers don't rate, like you said. Yeah. If it's a good experience, they'll just say, great job, or they won't call you, and they'll only call you back for upgrades. That's my thank you and appreciation.
Mm-hmm. Jason, this is something that, I read through it, and it kind of cracked me up because we have a client that we work for. He's in the dental profession, and he does a lot of these things. And we've helped him implement some of these things. Specifically, they do like a daily board, and it's a whiteboard, and we have a cheesy webcam set up on it so that the front staff can see it. So that when they, because they don't necessarily leave their desk all day long because they're at reception. And I remember when he pitched the idea to me, I kind of looked at him and I'm like, Doc, you're ridiculous. You have all this scheduling software. You pay thousands of dollars a month to maintain it. Why would you want a whiteboard that's going to get dirty, nasty, and rubbed off half the time as people walk past it? And he goes, it's different. When people see the computer screen, it doesn't have the same interaction with them. This does. When you see this, Jason, what is your takeaway from it?
Well, I look at, as Todd was mentioning about integrators, in many instances, integrators have got into this business because they're really strong technically.
Mm-hmm.
And in many cases, they're not as effective, as efficient business people as they could be. I always think about, the old Dodgers manager, Tommy Lasorda, who was terrible at the X's and O's, but was the greatest motivator of all time and would get victories out of his team, not because he knew how to manage a pitching staff or pinch hitters. It was because he was a great motivator. And the reason I bring this up, and the reason I really like this article that John did, we did a survey a couple of years ago on CE Pro. We asked dealers, why did you miss the margin or the profit margin on a particular job?
Mm-hmm.
And 26% was unforeseen circumstances caused by weather or the client. 11% was defective product. So that added up to 37%. The other 63% of the reasons why integrators missed the profit on a job was self-inflicted, caused by the integrator. It was either poor estimating, poor communication, poor efficiency in the field. You could go on and on. I wish I had the list in front of me of what all the pies added up to. So just little things like this that John's doing to his business, that makes a difference at the bottom line. He's adding percentage points to the bottom line of a business that's already, in many cases, running on a thin margin. So this is the kind of introspective thing that a lot of integrators need to do for their own businesses.
Very much so. I know in our company, every month we take a day and we look at what we're doing and we try to figure out what we're missing the mark on and take that back and try and dig into that to figure out how we can do that better. All right, gentlemen, let's move on to the last article of the day, and this comes to us from Commercial Integrator. Now, you may be wondering why we're using an article from Commercial Integrator when we're a residential show, but that's beside the point. In one of their most recent AV Plus podcasts, CI asked, what's the big deal with end users at trade shows? And when we were, Tim Albright and I, when we were at ISE covering it about a month ago, it was, I don't want to say surprising because it's been trending upward, but the number of end users that were attending ISE seemed to continue to grow immensely. And, we've talked with some of the organizers of ISE, and that's something that they're really pushing for. Jason, when we look at CEDIA specifically, which is, again, ISE is a CEDIA channel show as well, but when we look at the North American show, when we look at CEDIA, it's not necessarily, in my mind, built to be an end user show. It is still specifically a integrator, their customers show, not a, hey, we're going to bring our customers to it. Yet ISE has been incredibly successful, and that's a lot of what's drive their numbers, their attendance numbers up to almost 81,000 this year, has been focusing on end users. If CEDIA wanted to do that, and if the CEDIA Expo wanted to really drive this concept of bringing some of your clients, some of your customers to that show, what would need to change, if anything, for them to successfully do that?
Well, first, let me ask you, would you define the architect, builder, interior designer as a customer of the CEDIA integrator, which I would, or are you talking about consumer homeowners?
I think you have to look at both. And the reason I say that is because, yes, a builder can be your client, and an architect can be your client, a designer can be your client. But there are a lot of integrators that don't work that closely with that many client, or with that many specifiers, or there's another term for that I'm blanking on at the moment. But they only work with end users. They only work with the homeowners. And I think you kind of have to look at both options.
It's going to be interesting because I hadn't really thought of it till you put this on the docket for discussion today. But you look at a show in the security space like As Is, the American Society for Industrial Security, which is a growing event because it's a combination of security integrators plus corporate end users. So the loss prevention manager for a retail store, or a security director for a nuclear power facility or something like that will be there with their integrators. And the show has thrived because integrators have found a way to work, and they use it as an appointment base almost. They schedule appointments with these major corporate security directors, and then they walk them through the show floor, showing them some of the technology that they plan to deploy. Infocom also has an end user element, obviously, beyond these technology decision makers at schools, universities, corporations, beyond just the integrators. So it's a good question as to whether there could be a possibility for a combination integrator and user show in the residential space. I like the fact that CEDIA is a trade only event. I do like that vibe.
Yeah.
To me, I would rather see, if what you're talking about happens, another event come up that does that says that's going to be a combination of inviting integrators to bring their end users to the event. But I'm being long-winded here, but I will note also Emerald, we all know the new owners of the CEDIA Expo. It also owns the KBiz show and Kitchen and Bath Business Magazine. So I'm pretty sure that they have on their radar the idea of bringing interior designers and architects to CEDIA to introduce them to technology. So that's why I asked that initial question about who you define as the end user.
Well, and it's interesting to me because back when we did a lot of house of worship work, my personal company, it was nothing for us to take a technical director or a media director for a church that we were working with to NAB to look at new broadcast gear. We didn't think twice about it, and we did that a couple of times. Yet I've never thought of taking, even one of my custom, home building clients to CEDIA to see something. Todd, as an integrator, who can a lot of times work on some nice projects with some high-end clientele in the tri-state area, would you ever bring one of your clients, or would you see a lot of value in bringing one of your clients with you to walk the floor?
There's certain clients that actually been asking me if they were able to come to the trade shows with me because they're really invested in dedicating to technology. So it's becoming a question that's kind of being put in my lap more often than I like, because it's a challenging question to answer. I look at CEDIA first off as somewhere that it's like a vacation for me. It's time to get away from the everyday customers and to meet my peers, network, and kind of have a little bit of less pressure than I deal with on a daily basis. Bringing the customer base into that means I'm at work again. It means I have to be at my best behavior. I kind of got to, stick to the same, Todd from the source routine versus doing, where I kind of just, I'm me. I'm letting down my guard, hanging out, having a good time with my friends, learning about technology, things I love to do. But if there was another trade show that wasn't CEDIA, or say a CEDIA where we bring one, in New York City, it passes by and it's just one day show, I would love to bring my customers there, the architects, builders, designers, and there is value to it. And if we start off small and we start off with the trades, then start bringing our customers down, I think that would be a little bit of a less of a shock for all the integration companies out there that's been dealing with CEDIA for a long time, being a private channel.
Right. Very good. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. That's all the time we have. Todd, if people want to connect with you, where can they do that?
You can connect with me at Twitter at Todd Anthony Puma, or you can connect with me at thesourcehometheater.com.
Very good. Jason, thanks so much for joining us again. If people want to connect with you, where can they do that?
You can follow me on Twitter at Jason W. Knott, or of course, you can go to cepro.com. And thanks again to both of you for a great discussion.
Of course. That's why we bring Todd on. He's always got great discussion. See, positivity. Yes.
Yeah, I like that.
Awesome. Thank you, gentlemen, again so much for joining us. For myself, if you'd like to find me, you can follow me on Twitter at Matt D. Scott and every other social platform. But more importantly, please stop by AVNation.tv. You'll find this show as well as a wide variety of our other shows with all the verticals that we cover. When you visit the site, please take a moment to check out our underwriters. We are extremely thankful for their support and ask that you check them out. Thanks again for watching. That's all the time we have for this episode of ResiWeek.